somebody asks you what the championship director actually does, what would you tell them?
I'm the one person who's getting paid to think about this event 24/7 for the next 24 plus months. We have to come in, take a look at it, and say, what can we do in the next 24 to 30 months to deliver an experience for 40,000 people a day?
Welcome back to Weekday Golf. I am Preston.
I am Oliver.
And today we are joined by Jason Soucy. Jason has become a friend. He is also the championship director for the 2028 PGA Championship at the Olympic Club. And we're hoping this is the first of several conversations we get to have with Jason as we follow the road to the championship. So, Jason, welcome.
Thank you both for having me. It was a nice little drive in this morning to come up Monterey Boulevard and take a view of the surrounding hillsides here and get me ready to be out at the change of elevation the Olympic Club offers in a couple of years.
Pleasure to have you. So many of our members have already met you, but for the broader audience, we kind of wanted to give everyone a sense of the person responsible for bringing a major championship to what we believe is one of golf's great venues. Can you just give us a little background, how you got into golf, your path into your current job?
First, I'd just like to communicate the responsibility of being the steward of a major championship is not one I take lightly. So it's nice the way you phrase it that way, but in reality, the amount of folks who are investing their time and energy and emotions into delivering this championship is one that that's probably the most fun part of this job, is the tentacles that it has to go out and reach and touch so many golf fans and sports fans and just fans of the community at large is something that's pretty cool. Taking a step back, sports has been a part of my life my entire life. I knew from an early age that I was going to be involved in sports in some capacity. It worked out well for me that it became an area where someone would decide to pay me to be involved with it. I ended up getting a chance to work at the 96 Olympics, and so I really got some big event experience. That ended up being the best sporting event I was ever a part of because basically we got...
To this point.
It's always going to be the best because you'll hear why. We ended up being assigned the Georgia Dome, so we had a dream team back then. There's a lot of stuff that was cool. So I'm there, I'm doing all that. Unfortunately, there was the bombing incident. When we first started, most of the people got hired were professionals at a much further stage in their career than I. And I think there was a little bit of we got our credentials, we're here, there's a bombing. I'm not sure I want to be on the front lines of this. And so some of the people were quitting and they offered those of us who wanted to stay an extra check. And so we ended up kind of getting to be supervisors and reduce our shifts. And my wife, my future wife, was also working there, and that's where we met. She was also doing customer service. So I'll be in big trouble if I don't always say that was the best event I've ever worked on. But it also was an incredible learning experience because it's a challenge to pull off those events, to get so many different venues all on the same page and how you want to do things. I give those folks credit because it's an impossible undertaking when you look at what they have to pull off. That opportunity at the Olympics parlayed the big event experience into a opportunity for me where I was able to get a job at the Celtics and the Bruins, sports service, own the Fleet Center. They managed the premium seating program for both of those teams that I had grown up rooting for.
I'm curious, Jason, so how did you bridge that into golf tournament operations?
The staff at the Fleet Center was second to none. Mary Clivio was like a legend in town. She had run the hospitality services for the Garden for decades. And I sat down with Mary. I was like, listen, I love this. I'm never going to not want to work for the Celtics and the Bruins, but it's not exactly, I don't see a path for me to kind of grow here. And so the Ryder Cup was coming into town, and do you know how I could kind of, get my name out there? And she said, oh, there's potentially an opportunity there for you. The tournament director just got announced. She went and got me a meeting with him, and he looked at my resume and he said, hey, I like what you've done, the Olympics, event management. I know you get this. I have an operations coordinator role. So I ended up going right into a job that I was really underqualified for and really over my head. At the time, the 99 Ryder Cup was the biggest professional golf.
Not just any job.
It
like
was
the big show.
It was the biggest professional golf build in history at the time. So War at the Shore, Kiowa kind of started that animal. I would say 95 at Oak Hill is where golf hospitality really sort of turned the corner. I think our leadership team at the PGA of America at the time understood if you did this with care and focus and treated it like it was four walls and a ceiling and brick and mortar like some of the other professional sports were doing with their stadiums. I mean, we're at the time when like Camden Yards was just becoming a thing. Like the old school stadiums were like gladiator days, right? Just concrete jungles going straight up. It's like, how do we fit the most people into the building as opposed to a game experience? So I feel lucky enough that I was kind of around that when that whole shift was happening. And it was about the fan, and it was about how do you make this experience for someone who maybe hasn't had that passion their whole life. And I think for me, it was so cool to, our lead designer, our landscape architect for the PGA at the time had worked for HOK Sport, part of the team that developed Camden Yards. And I think just listening to him and our director of championships talk about how we were going to stage a major championship, I was just like a sponge. Just let me go follow you and walk around and listen and see what I could do. Because again, I felt like I was doing a job that I didn't really have the specific training for. I think I knew team sports, but golf had always been a part of my life. And so it took a while for me to realize that kind of my first love of being out there, the aesthetics of a golf course, spending all day, that was kind of built into me in such a young age that I was like, oh, once I had the taste of it, it's like, this is kind of what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it didn't hurt that the first event I was a real part of was the 99 Ryder Cup, which is about as special as you could get.
So you are the championship director of the 2028 PGA Championship. So somebody asks you what the championship director actually does, what would you tell them?
It's kind of how I alluded to before, is I'm the one person that is initially tasked with being paid to think about the success of this event day in, day out, years in advance. And the way I look at it is, along the way, I pick up plenty of people that are maybe more talented, more specialized, have more knowledge that are going to add to our ultimate success and build that sort of cohesive team. I'm supposed to sort of shepherd that along. And one of the things that I think is different with a major championship is essentially we're a startup company every time we get somewhere. And so that is what I think the institutional knowledge that I've gained over time is what maybe is going to help me be successful, in that we might have a blueprint for success every time, but it's going to be something that we're going to tear up and tear down and start over. What keeps me motivated and excited is you get a chance to kind of reimagine it every time, and you look at best practices of what everyone else is doing, and you say, how do we take what worked really well last time? How do we avoid the pitfalls and move forward? So
we talked about that yesterday with our friend Steve Meeker, who is the general chair of the 2012 U.S. Open. And that's, 14 years ago now. And by the time 2028 gets here, it'll be 16 years ago. And so much has changed.
And I think it's one of those things that isn't readily apparent to anyone, because especially the older we get, the time compressed. 2012, in a lot of ways, doesn't seem that long ago. As championship director for PGA Championship Quail Hollow, Webb Simpson is a member there. I got to spend some time with Webb. He's assistant captain at the Ryder Cup. I was able to spend some time during that with him, and we played a practice round out in California as a team, and I was in the team room with him, and I was saying, I'm going out to Olympic, and, still remember watching you grab the trophy there, and, the Birdman coming out and running around. And so it's like things like that that are emblazoned in my mind, because major championships, since I was, for over 50 years now of my life, that was the 4 times a year I had appointment viewing television on Sunday that maybe I didn't have to vacuum the house right away, and we had to sit down, and my dad, we'd watch those. And so that's the cool part, is like these things are snippets in time that can kind of matter to so much. And so to then distill that back to what a championship director does is like, luckily for me, I have a passion for it because of how much it's meant to me over my time. But what is truly enjoyable to me is there are so many more people that probably even have greater passion at times about certain things, whether it's the club, whether it's the city, whether it's the park. And it's to harness that energy and get it all together is really what I think can make the person in my role successful.
Give us a sense of how big that operation is.
I go back to my Ryder Cup build as a neophyte who was not in construction management and didn't really understand all of that stuff. We built over 60 100-person chalets at the Ryder Cup in 3 major villages. The hospitality program there was so driven. We had 300 10-person tables. And at the time, late 90s, we were able to build this massive village and have this huge construction project.
How many people are we talking about that are involved?
I mean, it's thousands. You're looking at thousands of temporary jobs. That's where, it really is a traveling circus that's going to come. And that's the difference between the major championships and an annual tour event, where an annual tour event can take their success, they can reinvest any earnings they make into capital expenses, maybe improve the golf course, get it better prepared. At a major championship, we have to come in, take a look at it, and say, what can we do in the next 24 to 30 months to deliver an experience for 40,000 people a day. So the differences that I say is like how the event experience is involved. Like for us, it was very hospitality focused, but there were restrictions. Technology didn't allow us. If I wanted to get a video board out to the 6th hole for Ryder Cup fans to watch, because again, the Ryder Cup fans move around the golf course like locusts. There's no real systematic ability to watch as much golf as possible, is to leapfrog and advance, get a spot in the ropes, and then as soon as they're done, okay, now I can go another 4 holes up, try to get a spot in the ropes. So we'd have to put these video boards, but back in the day, they were like 53-foot trailers is what you needed to have, basically a semi-truck to get out onto a golf course that was like carved into the hillsides by bulls carrying plows. And they never thought Country Club of Brookline was going to be a place they were going to have 40,000 people a day coming in. So that was like a challenge, but that was a fun challenge. And it was a way that I could look at my landscape architect and he could see things that the average person couldn't see. And this is how he could do it. Now, how things have evolved, technology, we can put these LED video boards just about anywhere. So that opens up a whole new world. And so I think for us, thousands of linear feet of fence that we're going to have to do to kind of make this an actual stadium to control access and safety, et cetera, to 600,000, 700,000 feet of flooring that's going to have to go out to not only build up space for these villages, but also for our market concessions, for back of the house kitchens and all of that. And oftentimes you'll see those of us who watch sports on TV will be like, oh yeah, you could just put a tent right there. And it's like, yeah, I could, but I now have to have the infrastructure to then service that tent. And I have to figure out where to put those construction guys on this amazing golf course that the members have said, okay, we'll allow this disruption to happen so we can host this major championship. And so we have to say, I'd love to build something there, but in the grand scheme of things, how is that going to affect gallery flow? How is it going to affect competition? How is it going to affect a day-to-day members experience to just do that one tent? So it's that delicate balance that we have to figure out. That's where the PGA Championship, what I get excited about when we think about what we want to do here at Olympic, we've got 156 of the best players in the world, 136 PGA Tour professionals, European Tour professionals, DP World. And, we get 20 of our PGA member professionals also to get in the field. And so you put so much great professional golf out there, 2T start, Thursday, Friday. Anyone who loves golf and you ask 10 people who their favorite player on tour is these days, you can get 10 different answers. So I get excited because we can put them all out in the golf course to truly experience something. When they're there, they're going to watch more of the best golf in the world than at any other event they're ever going to be at than the PGA Championship. But that's the one thing that we know as a major we can deliver is the duration of those events are so fun. It's like as a sports fan, sometimes if you get stuck in traffic, you're trying to go watch a basketball game, you get there, you're kind of in and out in a couple hours and maybe you didn't get settled, you missed half this competition. Golf, you could get that done by 10 a.m. And you're like, oh, I still might have another 9 hours of golf to watch if we're going right up until dusk. So that I think is what we can look at here to get excited about coming up in May of 28 is we can kind of deliver that kind of experience.
Yeah. So to make that all happen, who are the major stakeholders that you're working with throughout this time?
What we try to do At an average tour event, even is a challenge, but even that, you're at a site that's having an event every year. You can tweak it, you can create it, you can work with the local constituents because it is a team effort. When you have a major championship, you're talking about the biggest spectacle in golf. You're talking about, for example, the PGA Championship. We're partnering with CBS Sports to broadcast it. We have a partnership with ESPN to be our lead-in broadcaster for Thursday, Friday. With streaming coming on, Paramount Plus is now involved, and you have ESPN Plus. And then again, because of the international component of a major championship, Sky Sports is the European broadcast partners that works with
that's just
CBS.
the broadcasting element.
That's what I'm saying is like to do this big one, you have those partners that you have to worry about because they're like, we're the ones that have to showcase this to 500 million households worldwide. Yeah. But then because of all these other arenas, the way they can plan for it, do things year over year, we've got to come in with the blueprint in place, with the history of success in other markets, and use as much of an apples to apples comparison with local municipalities, with our host clubs, with our host organizations to figure out how do we get all the right people in the room as soon as possible to...
Yesterday, for instance, we had a meeting at San Francisco City Hall, and we had the mayor's special event coordinator, SFMTA. We had somebody from the mayor's office, a representative from the port will be a part of this meeting going forward, a representative from Daly City, Rec and Park, and that's just here in the city.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And so...
And we're going to have to get California Highway Patrol involved. We're going to have to get the county of San Mateo involved, all these things.
And not to mention all of the vendors that it takes to actually stage the event on property.
100%. And so, first of all, we're excited because you talk about milestone timelines. We are right on schedule with having municipalities involved. And again, this is Olympics in a strange scenario where it bisects two county lines, et cetera. So there's even more of a work together mentality that needs to be there. Luckily, the overall economic impact and media value impact that this event is going to bring to the community does get a little notice for folks that, okay, this is something we should step up and talk about how we're going to do this together. To your point about all the constituents that are there, you've got the municipalities themselves that are worried about this. This is important for the community to be able to showcase what better advertising platform to have than at the Olympic Club for cutaways that showcases come to San Francisco in May. This is probably not, this is a great time to say this is what we want to do. And if we can send that to 500 million households worldwide, with hours and hours of coverage, again, that's where golf is so unique, where, it's just not a 2.5 hour window that's going to happen.
According to the economic impact report from last year at Quail Hollow, it was about $190 million in direct spending. And then on top of that, another 150 million plus in TV advertising spending. So, and if you fast forward to 2028, we're talking about just for the PGA Championship, a $400 million roughly total economic impact to the city and the surrounding municipalities. So it's a big deal.
For a 1 week event, again, and that's where I look at it is like, when you look at what's going on in communities when they have to determine like building a stadium, the public-private partnerships that are needed, the funding that comes in, the story we get to tell is typically it's going to be at a private club. Those members themselves are kind of taking the disruption on for the rest of the community because outside of maybe worrying about traffic patterns for, 5 to 7 days, there's not a lot that the municipalities have to take on to have this kind of impact happen. So as someone who has to move these championships around and be a part of that team to do that, it's thrilling to do this because it's such a win-win story for everyone. And it's very hard to find someone who might have come up with a reason why you wouldn't want to host a major championship in your market. And so that right off the bat helps.
Yeah.
But to your point, one of the reasons why we are really successful when it comes to PGA of America Spectator Championships is that we work with the best vendors in the world.
Yeah.
And so the folks that are working at the Super Bowl, the folks that some of our vendors were subcontracting down there, the folks that are other major large-scale events, there's only so many of them can do that. My transportation management company has been doing it for 30 years for us. So they've been in more than 30 markets because we have multiple events a year that they understand how to move people in and out of the venue safely. they're the ones that I'm going to connect with the DOT here in San Francisco and we can sit down and come up with a concept and then say, you tell us how you can even make this better and work together. So you've got the vendors on this side, you've got the municipalities, you've got the professional golf. So we still are partners with the PGA Tour. The PGA Championship is its own event, but the tour players are going to come and compete. So we've got to work with Live Golf, with the European Tour, with the PGA Tour to make sure that all the players have the PGA Championship on their calendar. And so there is just a juggling of partnerships across the board. And so from my perspective, that's what kind of allows us to look at these milestones and say, hey, here we are 27 months out. And are we at that right stage now for what we need to do?
So let's talk about the Olympic Club. We have been very lucky to host a bunch of huge golf events, a lot of history. When you step on the lakeside property for the first time, what stands out to you from a major championship perspective?
There's going to be some initial sort of bias, I think, because what we've been able to see on TV as a sports fan myself, you guys have hosted championships that have had the drama and the excitement that I've been able to see on TV. So I think I came in here with a preconceived notion of I kind of know what the course feels like and what it looks like. And then I walk up to the overlook of 1T and 3T and I look around and I'm like, this offers an aesthetic that very few major championship layouts can even compare with. There is the awe of being able to look left and see the waves crashing on the Pacific Open and the top of the Golden Gate Bridge, looking down at Lake Merced, and then just the trees that
are, in a word, majestic.
Yeah. And you follow that along with the clubhouse, and just the way it's perched on the hillside. The topography is so unique on where the ocean course sits and where the lake course sits. So you think about that, and I lean more towards aesthetics. When you describe what a championship director does, I'm worrying 99.9% of the time of what's happening outside the ropes. I've got one of the best competition setup people in the world. He's been doing it since 1989 for our championships. He's going to worry about that inside the ropes, and he's going to make it. And I can just sit back kind of like a fan and just sort of see what the lake course offers from a competitive element. Mm-hmm. The nature of the true challenge that it's going to present as a major championship is readily apparent as soon as you set foot on property. And any of these historic golf courses we get the luxury of going to, television, as good as it is never going to do it justice until you get on property.
Yeah.
It's the one area where TV probably does kind of is able to be like, wow, there's a lot of going on there from elevation. But when you get on site, it's immediately, it's in your face. It kind of smacks you pretty hard of like, wow, this is topography that isn't out there normally.
Yeah.
And so as someone who, you look at the timing of when the PGA Championship comes, you're looking at, the Florida swing is kind of coming on there. And so I'm so excited that, you look at what's happening in Florida, it's a lot of Parkland style or
major contrast.
Yeah. And so it's going to be like, wow, this is different. And you're going to see what Troy Flanagan, the superintendent, and what Kerry Haig, our competition, what they're going to be able to do inside the ropes is so cool and exciting. And our job between now and May of 28 is to make sure that we can deliver the outside the ropes experience so that anyone who's lucky enough to procure a ticket to be out here has a bucket list major championship experience.
And you mentioned Kerry Haig.
He's Chief Championships Officer.
So he's the guy that has walked the course with our director of golf maintenance, Troy Flanagan, and has decided we're going to use this tee. The ropes are going to be here. Here's where the crosswalks are going to go. We're going to have this here and that there. And you mentioned following the 2012 U.S. Open with your friend Webb Simpson, winning it. We've hosted 5 U.S. Opens. This is our first PGA Championship. Do you feel the weight of history as you're setting up to prepare the course and the club for its first PGA Championship?
100%. I think those of us who've worked on all our teams that work on Spectator Championships, that's what sets golf apart a little bit, is every other Big Four sport, that jersey's coming with the team that's on there, and there's kind of a known entity to what's going on. What happens on the court or on the field, there's still competition, but there's a little bit of a known entity there. We are beholden a little bit to who gets hot that week. So your ability to have a memory that's going to sustain and get everyone as excited about, who the champions are and what it is. Why I get so excited is I think that Kerry Haig has a track record of delivering the most fair major championship test of golf that's out there, that allows, if you are playing the best golf that you have, one wayward shot isn't going to send you into a triple bogey scenario where you fall off the leaderboard and fall out of contention. If you play the best sustained golf over 4 days, you're going to be a part of this. And I think you look at our track record of PGA champions over the years, it's a lot of the cream of the crop that's in that top 5 leaderboard across the board. And so that takes a little bit of that pressure off of me, in the sense that I'm like, I get so excited. We were lucky that Quail Hollow this year, Scotty Scheffler's playing the best golf in the world. Anytime the number 1 player in the world is able to hoist your trophy, that's an exciting thing. After 4 days, like, it was right there. Rahm was right there. Bryson was right there. And then Scotty just separated himself the last minute.
Part of the lore at Olympic is that it's known as the graveyard of champions, right? Like, the front runner somehow has faltered in the end. My opinion is that might be a little different this time because of what you're talking about. It's sort of the most fair test, and if you're playing the best that week, you're likely to come out on top. But I know that, like, as Olympic Club members, that's ingrained in us. And so I think that's something that we're going to be watching closely and be interested to see how it turns out.
I think that's what's great about sports, though, right? That's why we're just going to have to sit back and see what happens, is because, again, it's a major test of golf. Outside for sort of the FOMO sports fan crowd, what I love is, like, chances are someone who rises to the top of the PGA Championship, it might not be that known. Same thing with the U.S. Open. It might not be that person, but these are 156 of the best players in the world.
Strongest field
The
in
test is
golf.
going to be there. Whoever is playing the best that week, if somebody figures out these greens and starts putting, and somebody knows somebody's hitting their irons precisely where they're going to hit them, that's what makes major championship golf different, is all facets of your game have to be 100%. I'm sure when you look at the stats when it's over, now we have strokes gained, we have all these things we look at.
Sure.
The guy who's delivering at the high level of all of those is who's going to be there. So if it's that one chance where this player has put it together that week, that's something we can celebrate. And so that's where I look back. It's like, I think you guys, you might not have had that name player, but you definitely had the player who was able to harness that for those 4 days at that time. And that's something he can cherish for the rest of his life.
What is your sense of what you think these best players in the world are noticing when they come to Olympic that maybe your typical golfer might not notice?
You still have the yardage that's there. I think we've talked about the heavy air that's out here.
It plays longer than
plays longer, the card says. I think the change of elevation, these guys are the best players in the world for a reason. They can flight a ball at a higher trajectory from a further distance than average players. I'll speak for myself there. You guys are probably a little above average. So to me, that's what gets exciting, is that they're looking at this golf course and they know the way these fairways, the way the rough is likely going to play when it comes to a major championship. They better be dialed in. And the rough and the topography of the hillsides and hitting out of this rough, if you're not there, the lower holes in the lakeside offer a little bit more flat, but there is undulation everywhere.
Yeah.
So your feet are never in the right stance that you kind of want to be. So I think from my perspective, that's what they're going to see. They're going to know that I better be working on all facets of my game, because I can't just bomb it out there in the rough and flip a wedge up there and, two-putt my way to major championship victory here. I think the way Kerry sets it up, there's birdies that are out there to get there. If we don't get weather, which I think some of our major championships, weather has played a little bit too much, like some of Augusta the last couple of years. What I love about here is, hopefully, knock on wood, the weather forecast shouldn't determine who our champion is. I think what the golf course is how it's set up, how it's intended to play for the week. I'm hoping we can have that be a 4-day thing where the cream of the crop will really, truly rise. And I think that's the fun part to me, is that We can set the rough at the spot where it's going to be. It can grow up over the week. The greens can run the way they want to run. And, hopefully the PGA Championship has typically delivered is a broadcast that usually has people sitting on the edge of the seat right up until the last putt drops on Sunday. And I think that's where, sitting here this far out, we usually can look at each other in the eye and be like, at least we think we've got that lined up.
Yeah.
But that's what sports are great, because then, there's somebody who's going to go out and shoot 62, and it's like, how did that happen?
As I like to say, you never know until you find out.
Yeah.
Which is one of the great things about sports.
This conversation, Jason, is so great because we don't get to get a peek behind the curtain of who's actually putting this on and what does that involve. And so once that championship week arrives, projecting into May 2028, what does success look like and feel like for you?
It's funny the way you frame that, because in reality, the less people outside of our intimate group that know who I am,
Yeah.
probably means how successful the event
You've done
is.
your job. Yeah. I get
So
you.
if you have the kind of personality that you can kind of wrap your head around that, of like, hey, I don't need the credit for any of this. And if anything, that's what I think team sports instilled in me, is like, we are lifting each other up. I think for me, the ability for us to stand on 18 green with all those constituents that we just mentioned, we'll all be there. And if we can go around and shake hands and smile and hug, that's success. Like, because that's the hope, is that every single one of those partners that we pick up along the way shares in that same feeling on that Sunday afternoon. And I think that's not always going to be the case. There's going to be challenges, that there's going to be certain groups that feel like, oh, we wish we could have done more. We wish we could have done this. Our job as the Spectator Championship team, the team that I'm going to build here at Olympic Club, we're each going to be tasked to have our own little group that we build together to say, this is what success is going to look like on Sunday to us. I get to probably have a little bit more of a emotional attachment because of the time that I'm here, and I'll have a little bit more time than some of my staff to build relationships. That was one of the reasons I left the PGA of America the first time, was I was like, oh, it's so draining to, like, I build all these amazing relationships. Now I'm going to leave and I'm going to go and I'm going to forge new ones. I was able to do that at the PGA Tour and stay and be a part of a community and do that. But I think that there's a little bit that kind of missed it, because that is what I look at it as, a privilege that I get to have these lifelong relationships in certain parts of the country and get to be a part of the community and have a wealth of knowledge about areas that I might not live in day to day.
Yeah.
And so I think, to me, that's that success that
That's
I'm
super
looking
unique.
forward to,
Yeah.
is that we're running around and we're able to kind of sit back that night and for many nights thereafter. And every time I come back into town, we can kind of relive and rehash. And I think that will be success to me.
I think that if I pull aside 10 spectators and I say, how's your experience been? And they're all in agreement that that's just been fantastic. I had a great time at the tournament. And if I talk to 10 players, we felt so well taken care of here. And if I talk to 10 volunteers and they all say, I had a fantastic time, I felt super well supported throughout the whole thing. And if the folks at the city say, you guys were wonderful to work with, and this was a great partnership. And if I talk to 10 members, they felt like you guys did a really good job taking care of us. I think that's how I feel like success will look for me as part of this team.
And I would just add, as a member, the Olympic Club came off amazing.
Yeah.
Right? It was a test. It was aesthetic. It was a drama-filled, exciting tournament. Allowed players to hit good shots and be rewarded for it. Was penal where it needed to be penal, but in a fair way. That, to me, would feel great.
Yeah.
And so I think the good news for us, probably the only element that I have value here in the room, is that institutional knowledge of seeing multiple major championships start and go through fruition. What I see available to us here for resources, what I see with the municipalities that we've already met with, Daly City, San Francisco, the excitement, the support that's already here, align that with passionate members that have the size and scope and emotional attachment that this giant membership has here in the community is going to have us have so many more tentacles to kind of get out there and build awareness for this championship. We have more resources here to guarantee our success than just about any other place I've been a part of or seen, even a small events that I've worked on or giant events I've worked on in a small part. So as the person who is been selected to be the steward of this championship, I am incredibly optimistic that we're going to deliver on every single one of those things that Preston just hit on.
What do you notice to this point that is different about our membership versus places? I mean, obviously our size. I mean, it's huge, right? It's totally different than anywhere else you've probably worked.
100%. And there is no, as I said, like Quail Hollow is a unique experience that I just had. I was able to become a part of that community. They host an annual tour event every year. That membership knows what major championships are supposed to look like, what professional golf tournaments. Johnny Harris, their president, has been a fabric of professional golf. You know, he's helped direct it for decades. They have resources available to them that is impressive. However, they're about 300 members. You take that same passion, you talk about the history and tradition of the Olympic clubs, a club that, you know, I was reading one of the articles recently when historic players were talking about their top 10 courses to play. I think Olympic Club was on 3 of those lists for some of the best Hall of Fame golfers in the world. To have that kind of history and tradition out there and have thousands of members that are here in the community to help spread the word for us that this is going to happen here in May of 28, because that's what really ultimately will derive success for us. San Francisco as a community is unrivaled. You know, what it has for overall sort of tourism, atmosphere. We talked about foods, restaurants, the resources that our fans, vendors, and players are going to be able to have at their disposal within a few miles compared to when you host a major championship. Sometimes we're going to golf courses that are 2 hours from an airport that can get people in and out. We have everything at our disposal in such a ease of transportation here that is music to my ears, in the sense that we can go have these conversations with the best companies in the world that invest in golf on a regular basis. Like, if you're not planning to be a part of this in May of 28, you are going to miss out, you know? And I think that what really helps us too, and especially the way Olympic Club, what I understand of the history, where it's built around all sports. You know, you've got Downtown Club. We are catering to sports fans for this event. So this is going to be so cool because we're going to be able to invite someone out who's a sports fan, might not even know golf, spend 10 to 12 hours at the Olympic Club in a tranquil setting that has aesthetics where I guarantee you there'll be a large percentage of them will probably won't even see one shot of golf, but they might think this is a bucket list experience for them once they're done because they were able to take in the atmosphere of a major championship at this club.
Yeah. Okay, so there's always a seedy underbelly. You've had a lot of experience doing this. What gives you the most stress, the most heartache?
Well, one of our greatest strengths is one of our challenges is that unlike the other big 4 sports that have these stadiums that were built and plan and capacity, the infrastructure that's required to build like a TV compound for those 3 broadcast partners that we have in the past has required 8 acres of land just to put them to do their job. Never even mind about where we're parking them or how we're getting there. So from my perspective, I do have this army of brand evangelists, we can call our members, that are out here telling people the story. We need to figure out as a team how to deliver this championship with the least amount of disruption to them, because you members are the ones who are taking it on the chin for the rest of this market, this area, to reap the benefits that Preston just alluded to with the $400 million overall, the impact we can have with 500 million people looking at this event, seeing why San Francisco is a community that they should spend more time in. So my goal is to figure out how do we pull this off and build this create this build, to create the spectator amenities and atmosphere that we're going to need to deliver that experience without making that disruption so unfortunate that the people that matter the most are the ones that feel the brunt of that. That being said, I think one of the things that we have going for us here is the size of the footprint that Olympic Club has. Even though there isn't really enough room to do it without disrupting some element of the golf course, we do have 2 incredible 18-hole golf courses. We do have a par 3 course. We have an incredible practice facility, the new short game area that you guys have. If I'm a member, my hope is I can still appreciate what an Olympic Club has to offer. Every single day leading up right until the championship, I can take advantage of my membership at that point. So if we do this effectively and do it the right way and stagger the climate is going to help us. I will say there's other memberships more recently have really struggled because a May event in Rochester, New York and in Philadelphia, like their impact of what they're able to take advantage of in their club and when we need to build it. We had to start building
shorter season for them.
In Rochester, we had to start building the hospitality in the fall and let it stand up over winter. Here, we can take a look at the timeline of how things are. We might start building earlier to be less disruptive, so we can figure all that out.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask as an aside, at what point will it start feeling like a stadium?
Hopefully, as late as we can make it happen. Because I mean, I think for us, traditionally, the build is going to start for a May event is going to start early February. And we're going to ramp that up, but we're going to do it in such a way that if a member is having a wedding and wants to take some pictures out on the Lombard and look out, that they don't feel like they're looking at a back of a Porta-John or something already. So we're going to slowly phase it out in such a way. I think it'll be hopefully probably April when some members are going to be taking advantage of TIO to be hitting their balls into a bleacher to sort of get a better drop up by the green and things like that. So
that would be a temporary, immovable obstruction.
So I think that by April, it's coming.
Yeah.
March, you'll start to see pockets. February, see pockets. But like by April 1, it's like, oh my gosh, what we've been talking about for 2 years here is happening. But again, my goal is to hopefully we do this in a way where you're still able to be coming in and using, coming to the club for lunch and taking advantage of the other assets that the club has right up until the tournament.
So when the Wanamaker Trophy gets hoisted by the champion, what does that moment feel like for you?
I will say the recency bias this year, it was a little bit of like my heart went in my throat because Scotty put it up with such force that the top flew off.
Right. Yeah.
And I know
Morikawa did that too.
I know with the price of silver where we're at right now, I know the cost of sort of repairing the top of that thing. So but that be aside, that again, early part of my career, starting with the Ryder Cup, having that championship, Kerry Haig, we were on the closing ceremonies. I turned to him and I said, hey, this was a tough one to start with. How are we ever going to top this? As always, has words of wisdom, and he's like, every championship you're a part of is going to have its own special element. And so it literally took me one event as I got promoted to tournament director, took the senior PGA Championship, went to Ridgewood Country Club, ran that event. Tom Watson was my dad's favorite player growing up. The only major championship he never won on the regular tour was the PGA Championship. He beat Jim Thorpe coming down the stretch to win the senior championship that year, and he was able to thank Stan Thirsk, his head professional growing up, and hoist a PGA trophy in his honor. So I was like, that was great, the Ryder Cup comeback and all this, but here I am in a smaller sort of unique scenario, looking at Tom get emotional, and it's like, I still get emotional thinking about it. So, it's kind of like comes full circle. And so like for me, never having been a champ director for the PGA Championship, I worked with the team on several of them, and you get a part of it, and every annual meeting we sit through and go through every championship's budget and all that's fun. So it's like you feel a part of all of them.
Yeah.
But when Scotty threw it up there for Charlotte, it was a different feeling for me. It was like, oh, like, wow, like it delivered everything that Preston just said. I was able to do exactly that. And every person that we talked to had that sentiment. And so it buoys me right now is if I look at where I was sitting at this same time in Charlotte, I'm not sure I even saw the same amount of support and assets that we have here that can hopefully generate the success we want for this championship. And so that to me gets me pretty excited.
Yeah. And how long can you appreciate and soak that in until it's like on to the next?
Post-event depression is a real thing. I have a therapist here I can talk to.
And you're married to one as well.
I think that is something that actually concerns me the most as a manager, as I try to work with my younger staff to prepare them. And no matter how many times you tell people, you can't prepare for it.
Well,
So,
maybe we'll develop a curriculum.
yeah. But I would say it works both ways. It's like it can be every day thereafter. You know, it's the hardest part is we got to tear it all down. And so that's the part where everybody says like, oh my God, your job's over. I'm like, I still have 2 solid months of a lot of work to make sure these members are happy with how we because how we get out of the course is more important than how we start getting there.
Sure. And you know, to that point, you're still in Charlotte. How long did it take you to finally put the ribbon on it and be done?
We're still not even there. I mean, that's when you talk about the vastness of it.
Yeah.
The subcontractors have to get paid. Everybody goes has it. So like the billing and the tracking of everything. Tax season, I guess, auditing. Once the auditors are kind of happy with how everything sort of falls in place, that's when I'm kind of done. But
So
I mean,
you're married to this thing.
and when I say that, and that to your point of probably how that trophy feels when it goes up, that is the hardest part because to everyone, the large majority of people, the job is sort of done. And my team, I need to keep them invigorated with, we've got to get out of here. We've got a temporary office going to break down. Many of them are moving on to new jobs because some of them are just contract only for that event. I have to worry about, are they getting a job somewhere or where are they going on with? So that's, I would say that's probably my least favorite part of the job is sort of how to maintain your operational excellence once the actual show's over.
There's another 25% of the job.
Yeah, it really is. I get excited now because every conversation we've been having, we can have a little sidebar about how can that work for 2033 as well.
Yeah.
So I think that we've got an incredible amount of lead time for our leadership, our team, that hopefully many of them will still be involved when it comes to 2033. And we can all feel like we've had a little piece of that event as well, even if we don't have the same roles for the Ryder Cup that we'll have for the PGA Championship. We can at least relish in the fact that we had a little bit to do with this success when it happens.
Yeah.
So, Jason, this has been wonderful. If you're willing, we'd love to check in with you periodically over the next couple of years as the championship comes together. Is that something you'd be up for?
I think that would be exciting. It would keep us on point because I'd have to stay. Our milestones need to stay focused, and so we will start to. If I don't have the ability to sort of be as optimistic, then we'll know we've got some challenges here. So you guys can keep me on point.
Before we let you go, we like to ask every guest that comes in here. We want to know, Jason Soucy, what does the soul of golf mean to you?
Family, I think. It is the only sport I've ever been able to play that I can truly compete with multiple generations of my family. And that makes it special. I think A Good Walk Spoiled is a great book that you can kind of talk about. But like, if you look at it, I look at it a more optimistic way is like, how else could you spend 4 hours with some of the best people you want to do and have a competition allowed in it? But truly, especially for the members of the Olympic Club, to be able to be out at a historic venue with the aesthetics that are there, you truly have lived a wonderful life if that's something you can do on a regular basis.
Yes.
And I think to be able to share that with friends and family is really what sets it apart.
Love it.
Well said. Wow.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, man.
It's been great.
Thank you, Jason.
Next week, we talk about the lead up to our upcoming golf trip to Wickenburg, Arizona.
This is not your typical golf trip. It's kind of the Preston Invitational. 2 years ago, it was 44 guys, and this year, it's 90.
I'm excited. You're excited. The guys are excited. It should be great.
It does raise some interesting questions. Can we keep the same magic for 90 people? I think we can. What are people expecting going in? And for you, the organizer, will you be able to relax and enjoy it?
That is a good question, and we are about to find out.
On the next Weekday Golf.
Weekday Golf is produced by Armageddon Partners, LLC. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter/X. Let us know what you want to hear about at weekdaygolfpodcast@gmail.com.